Hello, I'm Father George Salzman of the Harvard Catholic Center. We're here in St. Paul's Church at the corner of Bow and Arrow here in Harvard Square in Cambridge. And behind me on this aisle are superb stained glass windows. Before they were brought from Germany, they were kept in a museum there for a year. They were considered so dazzling. And they're the four great doctors of the Western Church. Gregory the Great, Pope in 600, and then St. Jerome, then St. Augustine, and here behind me, St. Ambrose, Bishop of Milan. We'd like to talk about St. Ambrose right now. How did he become Bishop of Milan? Well, it's an interesting and quick story. He was governor in that province, Emilia Liguria, up in the north of Italy, surrounding Milan. And they expected trouble because the Arians were fighting the Orthodox. The Arians, not about Aryan nation, but Arius, who said Christ wasn't God. And the previous bishop had been an Arian. And Ambrose was someone who was Orthodox, but he treated everybody charitably. And so he was trying to keep order. He was there trying to keep order for that reason only. But suddenly, bishops would be elected by the people. By acclamation, someone shouted, "Ambrose for bishop." It went up generally, it became unanimous. Ambrose for bishop. And you know what he did? Well, he was a sensible man, so he ran away and he hid. He fled and he hid. Very sensible fellow, Ambrose. And he stayed with a friend. But then more and more people said what a great bishop he would be. The friend gave him up. So make sure you check what your friends are like. Next time you try to hide, pick a different one. So for the good of the church, he was a marvelous bishop. There was one or two problems. One was that he wasn't a bishop yet, he wasn't a priest yet, he wasn't a deacon yet, and if you don't mind technicalities, this might seem like a small point, he wasn't even baptized yet. So he had to be baptized within the space of a week, and then ordained deacon, ordained priest, and finally ordained bishop, and then became Archbishop of Milan. He didn't have a lot of theology, so he did a lot of study of theology. Luckily, he had superb Greek. So in a way, he overdid it, much like Demosthenes, who had trouble speaking, and then practiced with stones and so on in his mouth to perfect his speech, became the greatest rhetorician of late Greek antiquity. Well, similarly for Ambrose, he started out slow, out of the gate, but then he overdid things, and he brought in lots of knowledge from the Greek fathers, which he had access to by knowing Greek, and he brought a lot of that into the Western Church, and were really indebted very much to him, and had acute theological reasoning in 100 subjects, which we don't necessarily have time for right now. He was very devoted to the poor. He realized that what the poor need is sort of something we're holding on to, so please let go. We're one big community. Please show solidarity with everyone else. It's sort of what we're talking about right in the middle of COVID. Some people are about to lose their homes, or they don't have rent. We put out in the middle of out in the middle of an epidemic is just incredible. So he had a lively sense of that, of social justice, of concern for others. And in that way, he was a particular godsend. As I said, he studied theology, and he also then was a person of particular courage. He was not only a theologian as time went on, but a superb administrator, and he also had guts. The emperor was tough. The emperor massacred 7,000 people in Thessalonica, but Ambrose was equal to that, and he told the emperor that he had to do penance, and he had to do public penance, and he couldn't come back to the Eucharist at Milan Cathedral until he had done public penance for months there, and that came to pass. He also was pressured by the emperor and his mother to give over churches to the Arians, and he refused to do that. And so the Milanese Catholics would barricade themselves in those respective churches, and they were buoyed by the singing of hymns, Ambrosian chant. And he said that he started the antiphonal approach from side to side, that kind of polyphony. Very, very important there. He was a great influence. He was a great influence. And all we have to do is say St. Monica and St. Augustine, and you immediately see the impact that Ambrose had. He had it in many ways by his preaching. If you look behind me, you see the beehive at the bottom of the window, and that symbolizes the fact that he was honey-tongued. He drew people by his speaking. Some of the phrases we have, we know through Augustine's confessions, Monica coming and talking about her son, Augustine, who wasn't yet converted, and in her tears, Ambrose saying to her, consoling her, "It is impossible that the son of these tears be lost." What a consoling thing for a mother to hear by way of encouragement. And then finally, the famous conversion scene in late August of 386. And then later, Ambrose, I think it was around the 24th or something of of April being baptized Holy Saturday night in Milan Cathedral in 387. And then 10 years later talking about that whole process in his life and talking about Ambrose along the way. Ambrose had a sense of a little bit of flexibility when it came to liturgy. Not everyone has that. He was asked when to fast. It was different from Rome in Milan as it was from Rome. And instead of making a federal case out of it, he simply said, famous answer to Augustine, famous answer to Monica, when in Rome, do what the Romans do. And so he had a happy flexibility. He had a happy flexibility there. He drew so many people to him, and he drew them to the faith as well. I wanted to say, in this time when we can travel on the web. And I'd like to make one recommendation, and that's this. One of my favorite sculptures is in New York, in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. You walk right from Fifth Avenue into the Great Hall, and you keep walking between the stairwells back into galleries, 301, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the medieval sculpture court. And if you look in there, you'll see St Ambrose in his study. It's this magnificent, perhaps from 1500s, Renaissance carving in wood of St Ambrose in his study. It's quite ornate. And so I hope you get a chance to look at that. If you want to compete by way of competition, pictures of your study and your setup, we'd love to hear that. And apropos study, for anyone who has exams under the extra pressure of COVID and the isolation and so on, please know of our prayers. If I can take anyone to lunch at any point, or coffee at any hour, or dinner, I'd be delighted to. So to all our students and postdocs and young professionals, know of our thoughts and prayers and our solidarity with you. God bless you.